guys, it's Brandy with Eternal Harvest Home Decor, and today I'm going to walk you through how I made this nesting table saw bench, and it goes inside my mitre bench, which is back here. I created this bench system so that I could open up my garage space, possibly park 2 cars in here, and be able to have a little bit more room to work. I don't always need my table saw out. I wanted a place to store it, plus I wanted some extra storage below. So stick around and I'll walk you through what I did. Okay, so first off, I was searching forever for some really great plans, and there are a lot of makers who have created systems just like this or very similar to this that might work in your space. So make sure you go give them a shout out and check out their plans. The Awesome Orange, Whitewood & Company, Anna White, Toolbox Divas, Tanisha has a really cool plan that's really similar to this, and several others. I'm gonna attach my plans on my webpage. I'll put a link in the description below. And with that being said, thank you to all of you for inspiring me to spruce up my space and create this bench system, which has really changed my workflow. And let's get started. Okay, you guys, there's a few things that I wanted to make sure everybody knew right off the bat as you're getting ready to design your space. If you're doing the mitre bench process or the nesting mitre bench system, the whole thing together, make sure you measure your space. Everybody's gonna have a little different measurements depending on the space that they have allotted. So for me, I knew that I had 10.5 feet from my dust collection over here to the door over here, and I knew that I wanted my table saw nesting bench to be the longer bench. I wanted this one just for storage. I don't need much other than storage over here. And this one needed a little extra space so that I could rip cut a little easier with my table saw. So this one is 60 inches, this one's 42 inches, and then I left 24 inches for my miter saw. So make sure to measure your space. Make sure you measure your miter saw so you know how wide and how deep you need this little drop in to be. And then you can move on to your table saw ripping bench. Now from here, before you make your plans fully, you need to measure your table saw as well, because depending on the brand of table saw will depend on the space that you need. For the DeWalt, I have my measurements included in the plans below. If you have a Rigid, if you have a Ryobi, if you have another brand table saw, make sure you're measuring that to know how wide and deep you need this space to be, and make sure it's with the fence on top of that so that you make sure and measure this area correctly. That's a lot of information, but hopefully that helps you before you get started. As you're laying out your plans, you can make sure your table saw fits on the bench. So this was my mitre bench station previously, and as you can see, it wasn't serving my needs very well. I had a lot of stuff stored underneath, and there just wasn't a lot of room to work, and I didn't have a really good leveling system for my mitre bench, so I headed to my favorite place and started to get materials. Now I did use a lot of scraps in this project, but if you don't have them, you can go grab what you need to. It's a fairly inexpensive project, and it will really make the space feel so much bigger. So the first thing you're going to want to do is determine the width, depth, and height of your mitre saw benches that are going to go over the top of your nesting benches. And I think for everybody this is going to be a little bit different depending on your space. For me, I had about 10.5 feet wide that I had to work with, and then I made this about 30 inches deep. Now I really wanted my table saw nesting bench to be the bigger bench of the 2 nesting benches. So I decided to make that side of my mitre bench a little bit wider and the other side shorter, which I'll show you in just a minute. So this here on screen is me building the wider side of the mitre bench. Now here's the shorter side, which will be on the left side of my mitre saw. And I just used my Craig jig and pocket holes to go ahead and put that together, created a strong joint for me, used Titebond 3, that's what I had on hand, glued and screwed all that together. Once that was fully assembled, I just kind of scooted it to the side to let the glue dry a little longer, and I began to cut my pieces for the table saw bench. Now, all of the measurements are included in the plans below, and this will show kind of the assembly process of the bench. I was doing an entire garage makeover, which is why it looks as messy as it does, because I was in the process of a lot of projects. But in order to complete the garage makeover, I needed this mitre bench finished. Now, my Kreg jig was my best friend during this entire project. It helped me with the whole bench and it made the process just so much faster. Now here I'm creating the base of the table saw bench, and I'm laying the 2x4s flat like this because I thought that possibly it would help the castors to attach a little better and make it a little more stable, which it did in the end, but it's a little different than I normally build with Kreg jig. Then I started attaching my upright pieces to create a box, which is basically what this entire table is. It's just a box with a little section cut out for my table saw, so it's pretty simple. Just make sure you're checking for square throughout this project, as its build is a little bit different. And I'm kind of designing on the fly here, so you're going to see me standing around thinking about how I want this to look in the end a little bit here. But I'm really happy with the end result. Hi guys! So I thought I would take a second and just kind of check in and show you where I'm at the shop. You gotta make a mess to clean up a mess and organize, I've decided, because I'm making a crazy mess. But I'm building right now my table saw stand, which is gonna fit underneath my mitre station, which is over here. So it'll have wheels, locking castors on top of it. And here's what I've got so far. So it's basically just a box. And on this side, I'm gonna cut this section down so that the table saw can sit there and slide things out. This will be my outfeed over here. I know it's a little rough when I'm explaining it. I hope what's in my head comes out nicely on the other end. But that's the plan right now. So I'm pocket holding a couple more pieces to do my cross pieces. I'll build out the shelf for the table saw and get some castors on it and then finish it up. But that's my plan for today. You guys are gonna laugh, but I haven't actually had a table saw that I've been using at all in the last 5 years of owning my furniture building business. I've been able to get around it and I haven't had anywhere to store it, thus this table build. I've desperately wanted this table saw for a really long time, saved up for it, and as I was building this, I was getting really excited to finally have the tool and a place to put it. I decided to attach the castors at that point because it would make it a little bit easier. They're locking castors, so I was able to lock it into place as I finished the build out. Now I unboxed my table saw and made sure to measure everything, how deep I needed it to be in order to stand. I'm a little on the shorter side, you guys, so if you need to make adjustments, do so accordingly. I wanted this to feel comfortable for my height as I was pushing product through and ripping down on the table saw. So that's what these measurements will be. I am using a lot of scraps to finish this up, so as you can see, that plywood doesn't span the entire width of the table, but it worked out. Now I'm going to start building the shelf out, but really what you should do is buy one sheet of plywood that will span the entire width of your shelf for this unit instead of 2 pieces like I did. Hindsight's 20/20, you guys. After the assembly was mostly done, I decided to do a quick coat of primer. I really wanted to paint this aqua color that I had left over. I really love this color. It matched with everything else I was doing in the garage redo, and I really wanted my mitre bench to pop a little bit. I wasn't super careful in the painting process because I expect this piece to be beat up, you guys, but it was fun to add a little pop of color. Okay, so here's where we stand right now. I got this section of the mitre saw in place. I'm gonna add a brace right here and a brace across the back just for strength, and the brace over here will hold the mitre saw with the other side of the station. So that's where we are so far, but before I do any of that, I'm gonna move these pieces back over here and remove all of this and kind of clean that wall off, and then I'll put the rest of the mitre station together. Here's a look at the progress so far. Mitre bench is in place, and now I need to finish up the nesting benches and put them away. So here I'm going to start the storage side of the mitre bench. This is also a nesting bench, but it's just basically a shelf with some castors on it. It's basically the same process as the table saw bench, but you're going to want to alter it and make changes to it depending on the space that you have allotted for it. I got my castors from Factor Duty on Instagram. They also have an Amazon store, and I will put a link in the description below. And that's it. Both benches nest underneath the mitre station, create a lot of open space for me to work, and it helps my work flow. We can fit 2 cars in the garage now, and I have plenty of room for my tool storage. As usual, thank you so much for watching. If you guys like this video, give me a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe. Make sure and check out some of my other garage organization videos that I have available, and I will see you next time.